this world needs it. I feel like it needs somebody like myself who's willing to put themselves out there and have the courage and bravery to, speak up for people who don't feel like they are safe. I'll put myself out there. I'll be that example. I'll do it.
Hello, dear ones. Welcome back to Unbroken Chain. Oh man, I feel like we've kind of entered a new phase in the insanity that is this year. I feel a lot of acceptance, or maybe resignation is a better word, to the fact that we're going to be in this for a while longer, in COVID, in financial devastation, in the dissolution of structures that we thought were permanent. And I feel in that recognition that so many of you are finding new ways to navigate everyday life and also transform some of the things that were taken away in the last couple months and start to build new things, new ways of self-sustaining, new ways of collaborating in place of that, and that's been really exciting to see. It's really inspiring, and I'm so grateful to see so many of you finding ways to thrive. And I've just been thinking a lot about people who are in cages of all kinds right now, feeling our collective responsibility to channel so much of our energy and attention into uplifting people that don't have the resources to transform right now. I'm grateful for your ideas and devotion there too. It's so important, and there's so much work to be done. So today's conversation is very much in the spirit of what to do from that place. This is Royal Parker. Royal has been in the news quite a bit in the Hudson Valley in New York and beyond, but he lives in Pleasant Valley, New York. And that is because on July 18th, he organized a rally about the value of Black lives, but also really focusing on voting and a ballot measure about reforming the police, creating oversight committees made out of citizens, especially people of color. Of course, there have been many gatherings like that across the country over the past several months, but this particular one became a headline news because they got out there with about 400 protesters, a totally peaceful, well-organized protest, and were met by protesters from the Conservative Party and also All Lives Matter people, Police Lives Matter people, and it turned really ugly, really violent, really fast. And the police, who were supposed to be involved and protecting boundaries, did very, very little until a significant amount of confrontation had already unfolded. So I'm going to let Royal really explain what happened that day from his perspective, but I do want to point you towards a documentary that my dear friend Chase, who has been on this podcast in the past, Chase Bauer, just put out this afternoon called Pleasant Valley Black and Blue. It's about 15 minutes long. It's about what happened that day. And it is really powerful to hear racists speaking in their own words. I think it's really easy to cartoonize those people, and to see them doing it for themselves is really stunning. There's just no replacement, I think, for seeing that. So for those of us that couldn't be there for the confrontation, this is such a valuable document and a really beautiful exploration of Royal and Royal's spirit as a leader in this movement in the Hudson Valley. And this conversation is a really wonderful exploration of the spirit that Royal is cultivating in the rallies, in the protest, in the fight for justice. I think it's a snapshot of the courage that it takes to be a leader under those circumstances, which there is an enormous historical precedent of in this country. As much as there has been suffering and dysfunction and injustice, there have been beautiful, brave people that have risen to the occasion and put their bodies and their lives on the line. And just as it's valuable to look to those leaders, to look to Martin Luther King and Fannie Lou Hamer, I think the people right now that are living examples of that, we have to engage deeply with that, because that is the transmission that reminds us that we all have that capacity within us to show up to the world in ways that are deeply meaningful and have the possibility to really change the way people feel. And Royal's also trans. The day that we met, they were like a week into recovering from top surgery. And he's also a vet. It's so valuable for those of us that have not been intimately involved inside of those systems. I'm talking about the military here, to get a transmission from someone that's willing to be transparent about something that has a really strong cone of silence and shame and secrecy around it. So anybody that's willing to step out of that and say, you know what, here's what it really looks like to me, I take that as such a gift for the rest of us. And I'm really glad Royal's in the world, and I'm looking forward to what comes next, because I have a lot of faith in his integrity and the way that he is approaching revolution. More of that. More of that. All right. Here is Royal Parker.
I get I want to say almost all of who I am today from my mother.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a single mother raised me. You know, dad was never around. Child support.
Oh, yeah.
And had to go to court for that. So it was on battles.
What has she passed on to you?
I would say my resiliency, I get it from her. You know, the fact that I am, you know, having to just always overcome things. She's always told me, I'm black to start. I'm 6'3", a female at the time. I was a lesbian at the time, you know, and now I'm transgender, and now I'm a black man, and I'm, you know, like, those things she always let me know, you know, I'd always come up against them in everyday society living in this country, and that in order to do and be who I want to be and become somebody, I'm going to have to be better than a lot of other people from a young age.
What does that mean, to be better?
Like, to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. Like, I know I would always be told to not litter. You know, don't litter. Take care of this planet, and when you see something, you say something. She's always said that too. Like, you know, you don't let other people treat people bad when you're around. Like, you stand up for people. You know, as a bigger, taller person, I carry a presence. So when I do go out, just know that somebody's probably watching, you know, and that you are being observed, and you can be a powerful example. You know, you want to be able to show other people how to do things, you know, and that's like some of the things like she would always have me tell me to do, and just try to be that powerful example and just know who I am in this world and how they view somebody that looks like me, and to be better than what they think that I should be, you know, or who I am today.
So do you feel like you've grown up with a feeling of responsibility?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm the fourth generation professional horse person in my family. At the time, the first female. So my family has always wanted to be, you know, definitely a cut above others, you know, and strive to be. And I guess I shouldn't say want to be, because we, as my family, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, they had to fight to even get inside the show ring to present their works as black men back then. And so we've always had to, you know, be responsible, and had that responsibility put on us, and, you know, act a certain way. They had to, which carried on down to her, which would be her father, you know, as my grandfather, and my grandfather's father is my great-grandfather, who's in the Horsemen's Hall of Fame. Both of them are. Yeah. Wow. One of the first blacks.
Wow. So what is the legacy that you feel like you're stepping into as a black man?
You know, it's some big shoes to fill. I talk to my grandfather often about it, because, you know, I look up to him in so many ways, like in his wisdom and the way he sees things and views things. It's like when I was a kid, right? Like I knew what he was saying, but I just never really understood it. And now I think back to what he was saying, and I'm like, wow, he sees the bigger picture. Their legacy was such big shoes to fill, but as I mature and grow into, you know, who I'm becoming now, I see that, and he tells me, you know, that I am living the legacy, you know, and I'm carrying on the dream. And it means so much to me, you know, and I think that the legacy would be just to keep going. You know, they always, no matter what, they kept that resiliency like I talked about, and to just always strive to achieve greatness. You know, I know that's a word that some people might think is like, you know, oh, you know, but it's just like greatness doesn't mean you're great. It just means like constantly improving and trying to achieve, you know, not just for me, but for others, like break down barriers and like break down walls and build bridges, you know, so we can have connection, and see that we're all in this together, you know.
Is that what the seed of the movement recently was about? Was that sense of community?
I think what you're referring to is Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Right. So I totally support the movement of Black Lives Matter. And I have my own movement, and it's called Until We're All Free. So Until We're All Free definitely came about when I thought of communities. And when I mean communities, I mean like this community of the United States of America, and then the world at large as well. The idea came when I started to realize what was happening to these ICE concentration camps. I'm not sure what exactly they're calling them, but that's how I viewed them, and how they're separating families, and kids are locked in cages and being treated, you know, really unfairly, you know, and unjustly, and just not right. All because they're trying to seek refuge or asylum from oppression in other countries. I didn't understand it, you know, and then that's when I started to tap in more, and this was around 2016, 2017, that I came up with the idea that, you know, until we're all free, none of us are free. You know, it's not about black or white. You know, these kids in cages are brown kids, you know, from other countries. They're not even American citizens yet, and that's their hope. They're dreamers. This is what this country was supposed to be founded on, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the Statue of Liberty, just that vision of hope. You know, we as a country, I feel, can do better and are better. You know, we've come a long way. We have a long way to go. But the idea of building walls instead of bridges is not going to work if we want to progress and to help people. We have the resources to help other people, and that is really what the goal should be, bringing unity to all communities and letting like people be united as one race, you know, and one human, and justice needs to be prevailing, and love, it needs to be more at the core, in the forefront, and in our being when we talk to each other, how we treat ourselves too. You know, how we treat ourselves. And I'm learning more about that, you know, because when I think about, you know, what's going on with the violence and being nonviolent, I choose to be nonviolent, even in the face of violence. And I choose to be nonviolent to myself, right? I want to love myself, you know, I want to treat myself with kindness and care and dignity, so that can emulate like a mirror and then expand into a window of how I see you.
Wow. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that nonviolent piece? Because I feel like people are really struggling with that right now.
Right. And it's something I'm learning about, and I'm learning through Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice King. I'm taking a nonviolent 360 course, and pretty much what I've gathered so far is that, you know, nonviolence is the way, and that's because if we become violent and treat others with violence and ourselves, then it perpetuates a system of violence. And there's no justice within a system of violence. The way to overcome violence is through nonviolence. Being nonviolent takes courage. You know, being nonviolent means that you have love, and you understand that even in the face of hatred or bigotry or racism or whatever have you that you're faced against, you see that at the core of every being is love, you know, and that you see through that, and that maybe misunderstanding or that ignorance or whatever they're pushing out as maybe some possible trauma that they've experienced in their life, that they're pushing out on you, you know, so you cannot take it personal. You need to see through that. It takes it takes maturity to definitely be nonviolent, and it's definitely, and this is something that she said, and I'm hoping I'm going to get it right. We don't want to take over people. We want them to like come with us. Like, instead of like always trying to be that aggressor and like take over and conquer, like we want to show them that this is the way and welcome them in, you know, like instead of meeting, you know, fire with fire, like, you know, it's not going to put out the flame, you know, like we got to have like some more tolerance and some more love and understanding that we are humans. We're not perfect, you know, and we do make mistakes. People can change. Given some time, given some education, given some healing, maybe if we continue on a nonviolent way, the goal is to create a beloved community. And in that beloved community, justice prevails, and justice is a system, and it takes time, and there's like a lot of things that goes with that, you know. It's not just utopia. You know, justice doesn't mean that, you know, you let people walk free, you know, when they've created a problem. It means that we, you know, take time to, you know, educate, like I said, and things like that. So I don't see how violence can do that. You know, violence will only perpetuate more violence, and nonviolence will help create peace. You know, if war was the answer, then we would be at peace. You know, if fighting solved problems, then, you know, we wouldn't be where we're at today. We need to try something different, and nonviolence is the way. And that's my movement completely. I'm a practicer of nonviolence. My movement is nonviolent.
Well, maybe could you talk a little bit about the protest and the conflict the other day? Because I'd love to hear what that was like for you. Like, I saw some footage from it recently, yesterday, and watching you in the face of violence, like, remain calm. I mean, it's astounding. It's so humbling.
Yeah, you know, I've never experienced anything like that in my life, you know, and I've been in shark attacks, like, where I'm in the military, you know, where they do, like, drill sergeants in your face saying anything just to try to get you deterred. I've been protesting since I was 12. I've never experienced anything like this. So, you know, going into it, there was a lot of preparation.
What was the premise?
I talked to legislators. I talked to the town supervisor. I talked to the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department, ACLU. I had a team that I work with to try to help me, you know, compile different tactics to use. And I felt that the way we went about it was the best strategic way to expose the problems that we have today, like systematic racism. How else are we going to expose these things and put them out there unless if we don't work with other entities like the police, like town boards and legislators? You know, if we don't let them in and give them a chance to mess up, then they can't say that they would have did something, you know, like but when you let them in and then they mess up, then then that's when you hold them accountable, right? Because I believe in that too, accountability for all people, not just the police, for the legislators, you know, for the town supervisors, all the way up to the president and beyond. You know, we need to hold one another accountable for our actions and what we say, you know, and words have meaning. Words definitely mean something. What you say is powerful. It has power. So I had all these people, you know, and we said we're going to make sure that everybody stays safe. Safety was our number one goal. Safety was the number one goal. And as you know, we're in the season of COVID, middle of a pandemic. So I figured at least 6 feet, right? So I was like, okay, so they're going to at least give us 6 feet. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Department, they were like, you know, okay, we'll be there. You know, thank you for working with us and being very transparent. The town supervisor kind of pretty much pompous pilot washed his hands of it, didn't really want anything to do with anything that I was doing, didn't want to help assist me other than closing off Quaker Road. But I also knew that the Dutchess County Conservative Party was hosting a rally, and in the same location. They were going to be in this town hall, and we were going to be in the town hall too, an hour later, having our event. You know, and he said, well, I don't think y'all will be in the parking lot kissing, hugging, singing Kumbaya together. And I was like, you know, do you not understand where we're at right now? We've been protesting every day for how long? And you think that that's what these two parties might do? You know, back the blue, support the police, all lives matter, and a rally for Black lives, kissing and hugging, singing Kumbaya. Okay, so I see that you really don't want to, help me stay safe. So that's when I said that the police need to get involved. And I felt like the police would help, and they didn't. They didn't help. There was no safety, so they changed their location or whatever, and we changed our location, and I'm having a good time. I got really nice civil rights music playing back from the 70s and the 60s. There's pizza there. I have some speakers talking about peace and love and community. And my calls to action were the Executive 203, which I'll get to, and voting. And we're about to go march. I let the cops know, hey, we're about to go march. They were like, you got the road clear. They allowed us to march up the 44 route. So we leave the baseball field and we're coming up. And we're about to start marching. We hit the road. I met, literally, I could see it now. There's like a row of people in the road, the Dutchess County Conservative Party, and then they're lined up on both sides of the sidewalk of 44. And I thought for a second. I said, what are you gonna do? You have choices. Do you retreat, give them what they want, because that's what they want. They don't want you there anyway. They think that you shouldn't be there. They don't think Black Lives Matter, right? And you're going to see why, right? And I said, or do you march? Do you march on? John Lewis just died the day before. My teachings, my mentor is Martin Luther King. What would Martin Luther King do? I said, we got to march. We're going to have to expose them. We're going to have to expose the Dutchess County Conservative Party and possibly the police if they're not going to protect us. So I'm marching. We're marching. And then there's these two four-wheelers in front of us leading our march. They're the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department. And they go right through the crowd on the road. They don't disperse them or anything. And then seconds later, moments later, we're met head on. And that's when hell breaks loose. That's when the chaos, the gauntlet, the Dutchess County Conservative Party starts to riot against us, basically. Spitting at us, calling us the N-word, calling women the B word, calling white people my allies, my co-conspirators, and lovers, telling us to go back home, saying all lives matter. And this is what I'm saying. They don't think all lives matter if y'all saying that stuff to us. And that's why we march. Because they don't really think, the Dutchess County Conservative Party at least, doesn't really believe that all lives matter if they're going to call us that and say those things to us and treat people like that. And then they're pushing us. And like I said, spitting on us during COVID. And I told my people, I said we are to remain nonviolent. And my people did the best they could with what they were up against because people were pushing them, pulling their hair, slapping women and children. And I had peacekeepers, frontliners, and marshals in vests and whistles. And the protocol was if you hear a whistle blow for the police, the protocol between myself and the police was if you hear a whistle blow, then there was a physical altercation. And if you happen to get a chance to listen to any of that footage, you'll hear whistles constantly being blown and no police presence.
Were there cops out there?
There was. At first, there was only 2 on the four-wheelers in front and 2 on four-wheelers in the back. And they rarely ever got off of their four-wheelers to help assist. And by the time we got the march was only not even a mile long. I think it was like half a mile. It took almost an hour because of the conflicts that kept happening. I mean, a car got in the road. The state troopers and the Dutchess County sheriffs blocked off the roads. And we had death threats. We had threats of them wanting to hit us with their vehicles, kill us with their shotguns. And I told them about this, and they allowed a car to get in the road. And this person in the car, they were on their side, on the Dutchess County Conservative Party side, the counter-protesters, got out the car and proceeded to antagonize and aggravate and say racial slurs to my people. To the Black Lives Rally people. That was the hardest part for me right there. When I saw that car on that Highway 44, I had a moment and I said, we got to go back. Because I know my frontliners, peacekeepers, and marshals are trained in de-escalating and also, if have to be, disarming. So if somebody were to have to pull out a gun, okay, you might get off a shot. Or if you want to throw a punch, we can block it. But a car? I said a car, that's just like I said, safety was the number one concern. And a car, I knew none of us could stop. What are we going to do with a car? So I said, we're going to have to go back. And this is not even, like I said, it was like maybe a half a mile march. And this was not, we weren't nowhere near done. And I will say there was one man on the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department, Sergeant Hare. He finally arrived and had said that his communications had failed. So he didn't know what was going on, but he had heard the whistles blowing, and that's when he had came. And there is a clip that I do have that the Conservative Party was saying we were messing with the radios. It's not unheard of that these people who were ex-police officers, legislators, business owners, and people with power, that they might have messed up their, like, I'm trying to give these people the benefit of the doubt that we weren't possibly set up by the sheriffs, because they told us that they would protect us, and that is their job, to protect us. But I'm not sure, so it's still under investigation. There's going to be a meeting tonight about it, so we'll know. But he came, I'll never forget this either, because this was my turning point, and I think this was my turning point in this movement of Until We're All Free. He said, Royal, the communications got down. I didn't hear anything on the radio. Then I rolled down the window and I heard the whistles blowing, and I came right away. And he came. He came with the riot gear and the police and everything. Then that's when things started to change. And I said, listen, I think we're going to have to go back. And he was like, listen, you came here to march? And I said, yeah, I did. He said, you don't give them what they want. You give them what they need. You march. I had that American flag, and I lifted that flag, and I said on that microphone, that megaphone, I said, we're going to march. We are not going to stop this march. We're not going to give them what they want. We're going to keep marching. And that's when things started to get better. Did things totally get better? Like, no. Like, they were still commingling with our crowd. They were still yelling the same thing. Like, it continued on until they had to have a riot police blockade up where the dugout of the baseball field entrance and the town hall met. The deputy sheriff's department had to block them off from coming in and following us the whole time. Yep.
I saw this incredible clip of this guy who's like, a cop is holding him back, and he's saying basically, like, to you guys, like, you're protesting the police, but if the police weren't here, like, we would have killed y'all, basically. And it's just like, he's just coming out and saying it. Like, we wish this was 300 years ago and we could just get away with anything. Just like, and like you're saying, there's kind of a grotesque beauty to it, because you just, like, people reveal themselves for exactly what they are. But it's just, I mean, I can hear my own privilege in saying that I'm surprised by it, but it does still, like, shock and hurt to see that that's so real today.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a shocker and a surprise, in the sense that, these people are telling me to go home and I live here.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think black people live in Pleasant Valley? I don't know what type of world those people were living in that day, or what they think this world is that they're living in, and especially this town. But black people live here, and I think it might be because they don't hire blacks in Pleasant Valley. They hire one black at maybe every store, literally, like one, because I've tried to apply to work, and I remember when I went to McDonald's, and I had applied, and they denied me because I had a tattoo on my forearm. Now, this wasn't that long ago. I got this tattoo when I was 17, so it might have been when I was 17 or 18. I'm 30 now, so you do the math. And they denied me, and then they told me to go down to Poughkeepsie, which is an inner city, and apply to that McDonald's, because they'll take people like me.
Wow.
I tried to work at the local grocery store, and they said, we don't need to hire. And I applied for years, and I just gave up. And then my mom, she went down there, and, she was like, why isn't there a more demographic variety of people? Where's the minorities? Where's the blacks? Well, they said, we have the demographic fulfilled. There's only 1% black people in Pleasant Valley, so we only need one black person.
Wow. How is your heart with all of this? This is like heavy shit to live with every day. What is it like?
I just have to remember where I came from, who I am, and where I want to be, and what I want to see this world change to, and know that it starts with me. Like, I can't ask something of you that I wouldn't ask of myself that I'm already doing. It just doesn't, for me, it doesn't work like that. You know, that's not how things are going to get better and change. So I have to remind myself that, you know, I'm not the only one in the struggle, and the struggle is real. And even though I'm black and I'm trans and I'm big and, you know, whatever have you, whatever intersectional differences and oppressions that I face, that somebody has it worse than me, probably. You know, I mean, I do live in this country, America, and I have been to other countries on deployment in South Korea, and we have it pretty good. You know, we have our problems, don't get me wrong, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this country can do better, and that's why we're constantly protesting and fighting and having these calls to action, because we want America to be that place that those countries say, wow, an example. Like, you know, if I want to come to America, I want to help America grow and be better. You know, we cannot be building walls and telling people not to come over here and having bans on people, like, you know, like the Muslim ban. Things like that are not going to help build communities. It's not. It's not going to make this country any better. We're only going to be just like other places.
It doesn't even serve the white people that think that it will serve them.
Talk about it. I'm trying to tell you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know for a fact, I know some people out in these fields picking these strawberries and these oranges and apples that we love to eat, who are getting paid less than minimum wage with no health care and are probably illegal immigrants, right? You know, or documented immigrants. And no offense, a white person ain't gonna want that job. They ain't gonna take that job, you know? And 9 times out of 10, look, a black person ain't gonna want to do it either, because, you know, we out here trying to fight too to get a better position, you know, and get accounted for. And that's the truth. The white people, do y'all really even understand that you don't even want these jobs? And the people that do have these jobs and you're treating like this and don't want here, and if they were to leave, then who would be having these jobs?
I think it's just so invisible to most white people that there even is labor being done that serves our life. It's just, we just take it for granted that shit appears for us, you know?
Yeah. Maybe it does. Hey, that's a world I don't live in. Because my mother will remind me all the time, like, you know, that's why she has a garden and she has me tend to it, you know, because she wants me to understand and learn. Like I said, once again, you know, how can I have somebody do something that I wouldn't do myself, you know? I was raised very, I would say, strict. You know, like I said, I was definitely taught and strive to be better than. So, like, you know, in the morning, I'd wake up at 6 o'clock, you know, and I'd go down to the barn. And this was at the age, I was on horses at the age of 2. I was mucking out stalls at 6. You know, and mucking out stalls by myself at 9.
Wow.
You know, and these are some big horses. I'm talking about saddlebreds and Morgans, you know, and just having to work with these creatures, you know, and respect them and have them respect me too as the person, you know, and carrying water pails and baling hay and mowing lawns, you know, and just, you know, living that type of life. So I know what it's like to be outside in the heat and working hard. I know hard work, and I'm not afraid of it. And I was in the military, so.
What was that like? Yeah, what was the military like?
Well, I joined the military because it's an honor to serve this country. Like, I really believe that one of the best ways to fix things sometimes is by going in and fixing them. You know, like being that powerful example once again. So I figured, you know, if I could join the military and show them that, you know, of course this was after the Don't Ask, Don't Tell was dissolved, you know, like, because I wasn't going to go in with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because I was outwardly a lesbian. You know, I was not going to hide who I was. So when they dissolved that, when the Obama administration said, you know, gays can be married and, you know, y'all can serve the military, I was like, finally, somebody, like, gets it, you know, like, I mean, we just want to serve our country. Like, we have pride in our country, too. You know, just because we're gay or whatever doesn't mean we don't. So I joined, and I said it would be an honor to serve my country. And during that time, the election where Donald Trump won, you know, that's when I actually did my time in service. And that's when a lot of things changed, I think, for this country. Being gay really wasn't that okay, you know, kind of went to being quiet about that. And then when he implemented the transgender ban, that was not okay, you know, and I was trans by that time, and I hadn't started any hormones, but like it was like that time where he had just got in, like 2017. So that's exactly when I had joined. I had joined the military, right? And so I came out not realizing that he was going to do that, you know. And I was like, I'm transgender and I want to, start hormones and I'll, do whatever I got to do. And they were like, well, you're going to have to be classified as mentally ill. And yeah, because they think that something's wrong. You don't have a connection with your body and your brain. They don't call it gender dysphoria. They call it something else. So I was like, that's fine. Whatever y'all want to say, as long as I don't got to get dishonorably discharged or you're not going to kick me out, like I'm still going to be an honorable soldier. And then I got deployed. And they told me, we're not going to allow you to do this right now for military readiness. And then when I got back from the deployment, that's when they were like, we don't have to let you do this now because of what he has said. And we're not going to allow it. So pretty much I got approved by doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists, like all that. And then my chain of command said no. So I was denied medical assistance.
How about from other people in the military with you? Did you feel safe?
Yeah. Like how we're like right now where we're like, white people need to educate themselves and there's plenty of books out there to read. Like as soon as I came out, it's like, oh, well, what is being trans? And like, well, what's it like being trans? And trans, like everybody's trying to ask me about being trans. And here I haven't even like, that's really personal stuff, like for people that I don't even know you like that. I know we're in this army together, but because like there's so much exposure around it now, I'm being exposed too, and people are wanting to know so much about it. It was uncomfortable. It was a hard time for me to be who I was and feel safe and feel like I was, just welcome anymore, And I was an outstanding soldier, I must say. I got an award in basic training. I was the only female at the time to get an award in basic training. I've received many awards on deployment for my basketball career. I was on the Area 1 women's basketball team.
Awesome.
Right. And we were champions of the peninsula. I was the MVP of the peninsula. They didn't like that either. They didn't like to see me succeed. And you could tell by them, I don't know if anybody's listening that's been in the military, but I was constantly put on the radar.
What does that mean? So
like, like when you're on the radar, like sonar, like you see that beep and you draw attention to it and it beeps, like, and it's like, okay, like, what are you doing? Like, I want to target you. Like, I need to make sure that you're doing this and I want to make sure that you're doing that. And if, there's, of course, in the military, there's always some duty to do. There's always some shit detail that they're trying to sign you up for. And I would always get involuntarily volunteered, where they basically, they got a way, when somebody has a higher rank than you, of telling you things and you already know, like, just to do it, because the last thing that you want to hear is like it's a direct order, because then they've gotten to the point where you're trying to defy their rank because it's a big rank structure. If somebody outranks you, you just do what they say. It just is what it is, kind of in the military, because you give them that respect, or else you can probably get reprimanded. Like I got written up one time for trying to malingering. Like, I just told you I was on the women's basketball team, got all these awards, traveling all across the South Korean peninsula, and still going to work every day for the military, on deployment, active duty. But yet, like, I'm malingering. That's because I didn't want to keep doing those duties.
So it's just power moves, basically, to make it clear that they're watching you.
They're watching me and putting me out there, too, to, like, be more exposed.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Had you been exploring nonviolence at the time, or did that come after the military?
So that's it's just interesting because people always ask me, because I am so against like guns,
right,
and violence and things like that. But as I said, it would be an honor to serve my country. Like, so it's a great burden to carry when you put that uniform on and you know that you might have to, kill somebody or attack somebody for reasons that you might not agree with, But I felt as though I would do a duty and a justice. I did my best. Little did I know I was dealing with a really big beast. And a lot of those people are just sheep in a way. I hate to say it, because they really... And you do get brainwashed. Like I remember the first time that I got my weapon. And they don't want you to call it a gun. They tell you to call it a weapon, your M16 rifle. And I cried. I was the only one. I cried because... I really then realized what I had signed up for. You know, it wasn't just about, you know, serving this country and, you know, being that powerful example. It was to win the nation wars, to win. That's the overall, you know, goal of the United States military, is to win the nation's wars. And war means a lot of things. So I cried, and I was the only one, and I got made fun of for that. But I was like, you know, I just hope y'all understand, like, you know, it's no joke what you know, a lot of people were just so happy. Just so happy, you know. I guess they just like guns, or maybe they were ready to do what needed to be done. Honestly, to be honest, you know, I think some of them were just honestly sick. Like, they wanted to kill people. Like, some of the things that we would say, like the brainwashing, you know, it's not me sitting in front of a TV and I got these things in my ears and a helmet on or something. Like, no, I'm talking about like how when we march and we protest, we have chants. And those chants are catchy, right? And they stick with you. And then you start to think about, like, oh, it normalizes it, right? There's chants where it's like, shoot him in the head, kill him. And we're chanting that in unison and marching, and like everybody else is doing it, you know. And you're in basic training. You don't have no cell phone. You don't have no TV. You don't have no radio. You don't have no music unless you're singing to yourself in the shower. You know, you barely have any time to shower. And, you get drained, and then like you hear these chants, and you get brainwashed. And then you start to be like, okay, you know, killing a pregnant lady is 2 for 1. That was a chant. You know, yeah. And these are just things that, you know, you start to just kind of be like, okay, you know, this is what I'm here for, and everybody else is doing it. We're all doing it. It must be right, you know. So I took it as like, you know what? If I had to, I have to. You know, if it came down to me or somebody else, I'd have to. So since then, though, like, do I suggest people join the military? I don't. I don't. And then I say, unless, because some people are like, oh, well, you know, I really want to join. I'm not trying to deter anybody from achieving their goals and their dreams. Like, if you really think that that's what you need to do and that's your calling, then I just want you to know my experience. And then I tell them what's happened to me, you know. And I do also say, you know, there are some benefits, though. Like, you know, I can go to the VA. I'll get buried for free, you know. But then also just know, if they dishonorably discharge you, you're almost looked at as a felon. You know, it's hard to get a job with a dishonorable discharge, and it's not all that hard to get a dishonorable discharge.
If you just do what they don't like.
A few times, enough write-ups, and the right person over top of you that doesn't like you, of course. It's paperwork. So it could really ruin your life. So I don't deter people. I try not to if they really are adamant about it, because I don't want to stop anybody from, you know, achieving their goals. But I would not go back. And that's a part of the reason why, you know, I got this tattoo on my face, because I knew that there were certain things that the military just wouldn't accept, you know, unless there was a draft or something, and then I'd be grandfathered in.
Smart. Wow.
Yeah, I that's how traumatized, smart and traumatized. I was scared as shit that they might try to come and get me again.
So how did you get out?
I got out by gaining weight. Yeah, so like and at the time I was still a woman, there's like strict regulations on how much you can weigh at what height. And at 6'3", I had to be under 200 pounds. The system is not made for black women, who are typically more big-boned, more busty, you know, and heavier set than a white woman. And it's really not made for women at all, period. In general, they don't really... That's another thing. The military still really doesn't take well to women being in authority. You know, having them around, they still feel as a liability. And maybe women can't do as much as the men can do. And that's for various reasons. Like, one example is, say you're 22 and you're a man, you have to do 20 push-ups in under 2 minutes to pass a PT test. Well, say you're a woman and you're 20, you have to do 10. And these are not the right numbers, but you have to do at least 10 to pass. So then men say, well, you know, why should they be here if they don't even have to compensate for the amount that they're doing, for what we're doing? You know, why can't we do 10 and just be done? When we all know biologically, you know, just off of biological science, which is pretty good start, you know, on facts. Let's keep it to the facts, you know, truth. men are built differently than women. Men can't carry a child. Like, so it's just not, it's not ready. The military needs a lot of changing, and they need to really try to accommodate all. They need to open up ways for all citizens to serve in a comfortable, safe environment, even though we are, in the threat of danger, possibly, because wearing a uniform, some people might look at that as like, oh, the military, we don't like the military. There's surprisingly so, like when I was in South Korea, we weren't really allowed to walk around off base without civilian gear, because we were a target.
Really?
Yeah. And then also, if you think back to 9/11, we were targeted, and then I think people felt like they would target people in uniform back then around that time. So ever since then, and I'm sure before, when you put a uniform on like that, once again, you're putting yourself out there, and somebody might not like that. Somebody might not like the military.
Mm-hmm. What were we doing in South Korea?
I don't know how
Okay,
much
I don't
I
want
can
to
really
put you in a
talk
bad
about that.
situation. Yeah. There wasn't like an active official conflict, though.
No,
right?
Not with South Korea, but I'm sure the news talked about it a lot. How North Korea, which I was only,
of course,
10 miles away from,
right.
I was the closest base. Camp Casey is the closest base to North Korea.
Got it.
I used to deliver packages to the line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was an 88 Mike. I was a truck driver, so we were all through that peninsula, carrying various things, and it's dangerous.
Okay, so you realized that you wanted out, and so you started doing all the things
to get out the right way,
okay,
honorably. Yeah.
What was your experience as a Black person?
Black people get treated differently too.
Yeah.
But I will say that a lot of the Black people I met were also a part of the Sheeps. Most of them came from Arkansas or Alabama or Florida. There wasn't a lot of New Yorkers, I'll tell you that. I didn't meet many New Yorkers, and when you did, they were the rebels. They were right there with me, we're not gonna take that. That's not right, but okay, I know you have rank and I'll do it. And a lot of us were targeted, put on the radar.
So there wasn't solidarity among people of color?
Oh, that's another thing. If you're trying to join the military for camaraderie, don't. Look at and excuse me, I don't mean to mess up her name, have to think about it, but Vanessa Gillen. And look at how many people are coming out now. That's at one base, Fort Hood. That was in Texas. I was in Oklahoma. Trust me, it goes on. It goes on. And it tries to get swept under the rug because, the United States government the military wants to look like we're just such an elite force, and like I said, I think that we can do better, and we should do better, and we are better if we keep progressing, but we still have a long way to go, and there are a lot of things that need to be addressed within the military itself that people just gets swept under the rug. It's terrible. I remember this one time, I'll never forget it. I was in formation. I had been a couple seconds late, literally, I was walking up, and my staff sergeant was like, "Come on, hurry up." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming," and I guess I didn't come quick enough or move quick enough, because they don't say come, they say move, because we don't want you coming, they say. And I'm like, yo, y'all are just that's how much it got. You don't come, you move. So I was moving, and I fell in line, and then he singles me out, and he's like, Parker, you're a worthless piece of shit. I'll never protect you. I don't care if you die in battle or in the outside world. You'll never be nothing. This is the platoon sergeant, and nothing happened to him except for he got transferred, and the paperwork and everything, nothing. I remember my first sergeant said, we're just going to move forward, and he's going to leave, so you won't have to worry about him being around.
As if you had any say in...
He could do something, though. You know what I mean? He knew, everybody in that platoon knew what happened, but nobody wanted to address it because he was also pretty decorated. He had been deployed a lot of times, and was like airborne and air assault and all that, and like that's just all types of tabs that you get when you like pass different like courses, and they didn't want to like challenge him. You know, they didn't want to like say, oh yeah, like demote or like cause problems for him and make him lose any money, because like when you start getting in trouble, they'll take your money and they'll take your time like away from your family and all kinds of stuff, you know, and they don't take well to that, you know. So
I imagine it's a lot like the police force. Like it just attracts people with like anger management problems and people who maybe didn't have avenues to have power in their life in a different way. And
yep, the bullies, they join.
Yeah, the bullies. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's what I was talking about that with a couple of my friends, and they were like, except for it's the opposite, because like I will tell you this, you know, the higher up you go, like the more civil people do become. And you got to go high though, like, you know, like, because it goes like private 2, PFC, specialist, sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, you know, like, so there's a lot of ranks. So I'm talking about not until you get probably like onto this top 10 and above, like, yo, you got to get high. You know, these people have been in the military and are making a career out of it. Then you start to see like some respect, you know, and some dignity. People treating you like a person, you know, but not until you get there. And to get there, like, you don't want, if you're private and you talking to a sergeant first class, trust me, you probably don't want to be having that conversation, because that person's, you usually don't see those type of people, you know. And like when you have to talk to an officer, you know, and those officers treat people different too, and it's so corrupt, and it's like that. But then like I was telling my friend, it's switched where like I've never been a cop, and I don't know many cops personally, and I was going to become a cop. I was going to become a state trooper, because once again, I feel like I need to be that example of that there are maybe at least one good cop, and hey, I know him, and he's a good guy. Like, you know, and it starts at the bottom for them. So like the bottom ranking people, the people that come in that might be like me, that are like, you know what, I want to make a change, I want to be that change, are the low level police officers. But as they stay in, I heard it gets worse as you go up. Kind of like this deputy sheriff, Butch Anderson, that we have. He's the high sheriff, probably the worst one of them all. He's the supporter of Donald Trump. He's a part of the Trump administration. So we can already imagine, if anybody here likes Trump, then you're on the wrong side of history. And if you don't like Trump, then you know that if you're in the administration, that ain't never no good. You know, and I think about it, and I was like, you know, that makes sense, because when you try to become a cop, or when you want to become a cop, you know, I think that once again, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. You do for the right reasons, but then you notice that the system is so corrupt, and that these people have such access to such information and know where you live, know your family. Like, are you really going to turn on them? That blue line, like, you know, it's hard for them to cross it. And as people's stories have been coming out more about why they were fired from the police force, is often because of them crossing that blue line and telling somebody, look, man, that's wrong. And then them retaliating, that retaliation, that's real. And this is the real world. You can't stay
in the system without going corrupt, basically.
It seems that way, right? It seems that way. And that's why I understand why some people are calling for, like, you know, abolishment, you know, because how can you fix a system of literally, like, the police were set up to be slave catchers? You know, I mean, I look all the way back to where they began. You know, they need the mass incarceration of black bodies and, you know, killing and finding black people, you know, and I get it. How can you reform a system that's set out to do exactly what it's supposed to do? I need structure. See, I can't do total anarchy, period. I don't understand it. I don't think that's the goal for the majority of Americans either. We need structure. We need rules. We need laws. There's got to be something set out so people can know that there's boundaries. I think boundaries are healthy lines that need to be drawn for all people, so they can know, like, all right, I can't go 70 miles per hour down a 30 mile per hour road. And I can't, you know, like, there's got to be something, you know, so that then there can be justice. Because if there's no rules, then, like, who's to say that that's unjust? Like, your right versus my right? Like, so that's why I like this Executive Order 203 committee. You know, like I said before, I was going to touch on that. And it's about police reform and reinvention. And it's so that we can have committees in each municipality, mostly people of color, you know, and of intersectional differences in each committee, and they can help reform the police and look through their policies and procedures very thoroughly, all the way down to, de-escalation trainings and building trust and reliability and, safety within those communities. Real change. I really think that there can be real change. Now, New York State is the only one that I know of right now that's doing it, and it's throughout the whole state. But that can be a start if we can really help change here and bring some of these statistics down. Maybe it can be that powerful example that I feel like we all need and are looking for, during this time where there's so many sparks of ideas and new ways to do things. Like, I love New York. I can't say it enough. I love New York. Yeah. So I hope that they can come together and make some change and implement those changes so that people like of color and, minorities, different minorities can, not keep experiencing racial biases within their own community. It's very troubling when you look at sometimes, just in New York and New York City specifically, of how black men specifically have been killed with people who are supposed to protect and serve us, that we pay salary, undercover cops killing black men. And then there's the good part: not getting fired, not losing no pay, not going to jail, no convictions, just getting set free of murder. There's no justice there. There's no justice, and that's why there's no peace. And then, those people that need to be out there, like I always say, the resistance, this force that's moving out here now, these people who are rising up, we need every last one of y'all. Black, white, Asian, mixed, tall, short, brown, what don't matter. We need all of us to be healthy and stay healthy. And this fight is long. It's a long fight. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yeah, I think maybe that's what people, they just think that because this is happening violently, that they react with violence, and that it'll solve it. But that's not violence. With more violence is not going to create a peaceful environment. Let's try now not having war. Let's try having no violence. Let's try, loving each other, and seeing each other through love.
So in the wake of what happened the other day with the rally, what is the immediate path forward that you see for your community here?
This is bigger than Pleasant Valley. We want to hold somebody accountable, and Pleasant Valley doesn't have a police department. So the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department is who we're trying to hold accountable. This community, from what I've gathered, I don't know a lot of people, but the people that I do know has opened their eyes that this Pleasant Valley isn't so pleasant, and that there needs to be major changes. And I haven't gone into town, so I really wouldn't know what it would be like if somebody were to see me in town. I am way too traumatized. I can barely ride through the town to go somewhere because when I look at the road and I see the sidewalk and I see CVS and I see the baseball field, I'm just like, it was so beautiful, our rally down in the baseball field. It was just full of love. To come out and meet such hatred is just so disgusting. I'm just disgusted. So I don't really go into town. And the name I've created for myself, which I'm so proud of, I have a name that I can be proud of. I'm definitely looked up to, but I'm also looked at by people who don't want me to be doing what I'm doing, and I don't like to leave by myself. I don't really go places alone anymore. But I think the community I've woken them up, that's for sure. They want to talk about so much, like the police want to know, well, who got hit? And is there footage of somebody getting hit? But yet there's footage of them calling us the N-word, spitting on us, pushing us, all these things. And that's not enough. And why isn't those words bad enough? That should be a hate crime. Somebody shouldn't be able to walk up to me and call me a nigger. That's not okay. And the KKK should be a terrorist group. They need to be labeled as a terrorist group because they're the oldest living terrorist group in this country. They need to look at that and stop coming after black people for just trying to, fight for their rights and calling us terrorists. Yeah. It's terrible what happened that day.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with the fallout of that, and that this, the place that you live has become so vulnerable.
Yeah, it ain't the same no more. I mean, my mom, we sit back and we talk about how, because one of our neighbors, he's been coming over here since I got out the military, because he has a dog and I got a dog, and we used to leave the key outside of the door so he could, let the dog in and out whenever he wanted to, because he's cool, we trust him and all that. And now we got a home security system, lock all the doors, close all the windows, don't open them, just won't do that ever again, because we live where we live, and we know people, we have been exposed now once again. We've been put out there. My face is out there, and with me being big and black, and all that good stuff, yeah, I probably do stand out a little bit, so.
What is your vision? What is like healed, strong, loved Royal look like?
Well, I look better now that I've got top surgery, so
yay!
Yeah, that was a big change, and I feel like after that day, I feel like there's a moment where everybody really kicks into another gear. Like, there's so many gears of life, and you're like, wow, I never knew I could dig that deep. Like, I'm in it for the rest of my life. Like, I'm committed to it. Social justice, economic justice, and change, the way I see it, and I'm gonna make myself available wherever I feel like I have a space to be heard and to be felt, to lead or follow, and just be there, because this world needs it. I feel like it needs somebody like myself who's willing to put themselves out there and have the courage and bravery to speak up for people who don't feel like they are safe. I'll put myself out there. I'll be that example. I'll do it.
Which I guess then becomes a call to action for all of us to do the same.
Yeah.
If you can do it, then what are we all doing?
I'm just one man. I'm no better or worse than you. Yeah. So you can do it, and I try to empower, because I get a lot of people, really wanting to do things, but they're like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, yo, I know it sounds crazy like Nike, but you just gotta do it. You gotta push. You gotta push yourself. Yeah. It's not gonna be easy. Anything worth having, right? It takes work, people say, right? If you really want this, you gotta work at it. You gotta do those little things. I'm not a big reader, like a physical book reader or reader on my tablet or anything. I listen to audiobooks. Make it work. Find a way. I'll be listening to books all day and just trying to engulf myself, and then that's how I draw into my message. Like I said, get a mentor. My mentor living is Bernice King. My mentor past is Martin Luther King Jr. Find somebody that you feel like you can emulate today. I'm not saying it's all been done before, but I don't know if there's really anything new under the sun, shall I say. We might just haven't discovered it yet, or it hasn't been written, the truth. So find it and tap into it and engulf yourself in it. And there's going to be criticism, and people's truth will shine. Don't have expectations, and don't take it personal. And that's one thing I'm working on. I'm working on not taking things so personal, because when you do put your heart out there and your body out there and your everything out there, and for me, it's hard to not take directly, but you got to learn that it's not always about you. And I'm learning that it's not always about me, that there's a bigger picture. And that's where that nonviolent teaching is helping me too. Like I said, if somebody's angry with me and they're saying these things, maybe that's a past trauma that they haven't healed from. You don't even know me. Those people out there, they don't know me, because if they did know me, they would probably like me. I'm not saying all lives don't matter. You know what I mean? That's not, they don't get the picture, but I am saying that the fact that you're saying that and then calling me the nigger is contradicting, so we need to have a conversation so we can build that bridge, you know what I'm saying? And, so you got to push yourself, look at the bigger picture, and know that, you're on the right side of history, and that even though you might get some criticism that's negative, keep moving forward,
If one of those All Lives Matter people would want to sit down and talk to you, would you be interested in
of course,
having a conversation?
Yeah. In
That's
public.
Amazing. Yeah, yes. Oh my God.
In public.
Yes. Yeah.
With some people there, because you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course.
Because I feel like it puts so much pressure on you to have to explain and educate people, but it seems like you're kind of stepping into that.
I'm an educator. I'm a teacher assistant at a school called BOCES, and I teach kids with developmental disabilities and behaviors.
Wow.
So I hear people when they're like, white people need to go educate themselves, and I don't really like that. I don't. I feel like if a white person came up to me and was like, what's it like to be black? They really mean like, how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're not coming at me, like approach is key. I'll tell you all that. And that's with everybody. Just so you know, how you approach somebody is very key. And if you want to learn about approaching, there's plenty of books out there about it and how to make it more persuasive and engaging so that people can see that you're coming from a place of love, which you really are. I would be like, I would think that they just want to hear it from me. Like sometimes reading it in a book is all great, but like if I can get a real life experience, like I can't tell you how many times people ask me what it's like to be trans. I don't take it personal. I'd be like, okay, they want to know what it's like being trans. I just make sure they understand that, I am one person.
Right.
And this is my experience of being trans. And just because, I'm trans doesn't mean that everybody else who is trans feels the same way I do. And then I tell them, how I feel and and then that's it.
Wow. Such a gift.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got a voice. Some people don't. I'm blessed. I remember when I was a kid, I'm an only child, so I didn't have any brothers and sisters or anything like that. Even though I do have a stepsister, shout out to her. Like I would count and like bless my fingers. I would count my fingernails. I would thank God for my higher power, who I choose to call God. My eyes, my tongue, my teeth, my lips. My mother raised me, a single mother. She's been working with that population of developmental disability people all her life. So I've always been around those, like when I go visit my mom at work or something, just like how kids would do, or what does your mom do? And she would always tell me, like, you don't treat people different just because they're different. So I always knew that there was people who had less than me. And I mean just like being born with less. And I'm not saying that you're less than because you can't see or talk, because studies show that there's other senses that can be heightened and et cetera, et cetera. And Helen Keller wasn't really dumb, and all that stuff that people like to, those stigmas, you don't have to be that, So I've always been appreciative that I like to call an able body. I'm able. I have all my collectives. I can see, color, I can hear, I can talk. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with all these gifts that I have? I'm just going to sit on them. To whom much is given, much is expected.
I feel like you and your mom are exactly the kind of people where if we defunded the police, like y'all need those resources.
Yeah.
Because working especially with the populations that you do, like you have superpowers of how to like calm people down who are in heightened states and how to communicate with people that have trouble communicating. Like that's what we need for conflict, not like police with guns. Yeah.
I think if we do defund the police, or I'll be promising, I'll say when we do, because
Yes.
I know, we got to speak it into existence, and I do think that is something that should happen, just for the simple fact that we are taking money constantly out of healthcare, education, communities. Like I go to these white towns and neighborhoods and I talk, and they ask me to speak because they need black bodies to come out and be represented. There's a lot of white people who want to have Black Lives Matter rallies or Black Lives rallies for Black Lives, however you want to put it, and they don't have like a lot of black people that want to come out. Or they don't know a lot of black people, and so they call on me because they know I'm not scared to go in a white neighborhood and talk about how it is to be black. Whereas a lot of black people kind of are scared because they don't really want people to come after them, and for whatever reason. So I go out there and I tell them, like, just so you know, that this nice park and this grass all nice and mowed and this road's all paved, all sweet, and you hear that, the birds are chirping and the sky's shining and there's no cops riding by. Just so you know, down the road, however many miles, wherever I find the nearest city, I'll tell them, it's not like this. And y'all need to understand that we're hearing sirens, that we're hearing ambulances, that we're seeing parks with rust, or like YMCA for Poughkeepsie, who has been shut down for so long. Like no outlets for these communities. If we do defund and reallocate, where are these funds going to go? So I need to know that too. Like, okay, cool, defund the police, awesome, but where is this money going to go? Because I don't want it to go into the prison system. I don't want it to go towards like, funding like the churches. No offense, because like I'm all for churches, but no, healthcare, okay, education, okay, outreach programs and things like that. Like that's where I'd like to see if and when we do divest and defund, money go to, because that's where it's needed, and in the communities that need it. Okay, the communities that are impoverished and more have black bodies, black people, and people of color and minorities.
I'm hopeful too.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah. I hope so. You know, I mean, I think it would be good. I think that the police make a lot of money to do a bad job. You know, I mean, simply put, you know, like prime example, the other day in Pleasant Valley, where were you? We sat down at the table, we played nice, and people got hurt. Y'all didn't arrest nobody. There was a car that got in the road. Y'all were supposed to block off the road. Couldn't even do that. My mom like say, I guess they didn't send their finest that day. I said, damn. I think it was just so shocking, like how you said, and just so surprising that it was literally like the 1960s. No, they didn't have no Confederate flags. They had Trump 2020 flags, which is the same.
Yes.
They made it a political thing. Not one person, and we had sign making, like 100 posters, blimp posters, and markers, and all this stuff to make any sign you wanted. I was allowing them to have their freedom of speech, you know, even if it was abolish the police, because that wasn't even about it. Even if it was defund the police, which wasn't a topic on my, like I said, it was Executive Order 203 and voting. They could say whatever they want. Not one of them had a candidate's name for election in November. Not one of my people out of 400. All they had was American flags and Trump 2020 signs.
So we know right who they are.
Yeah. Yep. The Conservative Party. Yep. Yeah. That's right where they are. Yeah. I remember I was at this one counter rally, and because I counter. Like, I'll go to a Black to Blue rally and counter that. See, but my people, we come and we're ready to talk. So why are y'all here? You know, we'll have those conversations and things like that. And sometimes we can get through to people, and they'll be like, you know what, I get where you're coming from, but I'm here, you know, because, like, you know, they usually know somebody who's a cop. Okay, cool. You know, so I'm talking to this one lady. They got this Trump 2020 hat on, and she's getting interviewed by Spectrum News, right? Yo, something came over me, and I was like, Trump wants to grab women by the pussy. Trump wants to have sex with his daughter. And I just kept saying it because that's true too. Just so you know, when you see that Trump 2020 sign and you supporting Donald Trump, that's what you're supporting. Okay, I remember this time I went into, because I got smoked cigarettes, so I go to Smoke for Less. I come in there all the time. Like, these people I thought were cool. You know, we always talk. They know me.
Right.
I said, hey, just so you know, I'm having a rally in the Valley, you know, for Black Lives. And they were like, oh, you're the one.
Whoa.
And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, you know, they were like, people have been coming here all day complaining about you shutting down the road. Like, is that true? And I was like, well, yeah, but don't they shut down the road for the parades and stuff? And they were like, yeah, but, like, aren't you, like, busing in terrorists? I'm like, what are you talking about? They said that the people were coming in saying that I was going to bring Antifa here, break up the roads, like, just like how they go. I'm talking about all Trump propaganda, and I'm just like, okay, I'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
They're like, I think we'll close the store early. We don't want any problems. I'm like, won't go there anymore.
Right.
Won't go there no more. Right. That's right in this town.
Well, hopefully they'll see what happened and see that it was the All Lives Matter people that were violent.
See, that's the thing, though. Like, that day, it changed people's lives.
Yeah.
If you were there and you had to witness that and go through that, it changed your life. And that's why I know when we go back out there, I'm not sure when we are. I'm really trying to focus in on Executive Order 203 committee. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with reforming, you know, the police. And that's the committee that I am honored to be on. So I'm really trying to focus on that. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know a lot of legal talk. And I was never a cop, so there's these words. And I'm trying to take my time and really focus on that. But we will go out there again, and we will march again on Pleasant Valley. It'll happen again. It has to happen again, because that's what Martin would do. Until they let us march through that street and demonstrate without being physically violated. We out there talking about no justice, no peace, no racist police. They out there, fucking niggers, bitches, go back home where you came from. We don't want you here. Like, you know, we had to, like, get through it together. Unity. We had to. COVID and all. COVID went out the window when we had to lock arms. People were like, forget this. Like, whatever has to be done so, like, we can just make it through. You know, we all had masks on, you know, and they had no masks on. Well, 99% of them had no masks on.
Man, well, how can people join your work and your organization? And
So, you can definitely find me on Facebook. I have a page called Until We're All Free. That's UNTILWE''RE. Until We're All ALL Free, FREE. On Twitter, it's at Until We All Free, because it couldn't let me have the two other letters, too many letters in the name. So Until We All Free on Twitter. And you can also go on to my website and subscribe to my newsletters. That's where I'll be pushing out my next event and all the events that I will be attending. If you do want to meet me, www.untilwe'reallfree.com.
Amazing. If any of y'all want to connect with me, I am also on the internet, always MauraJames.com and Maura James on Instagram. And I really love hearing from you. So please reach out if you'd like to connect. I want to shout out a podcast that I have binged recently. It's called Scene on Radio, Scene, SCENE, on, O-N. On my long drive back from the Hudson Valley, I binged season 1, which is called Seeing White, and it's about taking on racism, but by looking at whiteness, hosted by a guy who has been doing documentary work and journalism in that space for many years, but he makes the point right off the bat that so often when we're talking about race, we look at Black people and Black communities, or Indigenous people and Indigenous communities, and he really takes on the work that James Baldwin and so many others have put forth to America, which is like, hey, white people, y'all invented race. Y'all invented this caste system, and that's on you to look at why. And this podcast series does that in such a great way. I learned so much, and I think for anybody who's taking this current moment as a deep call to educate and reorient the story of America and how we ended up in this current moment. There's so many resources there. I cannot say enough good things about it. I'm almost finished with season 4, which is about taking on democracy. The premise, the myth that we have all been indoctrinated with, that is what this country was founded on, equal rights for all. And it really takes on looking from when Europeans arrived on this continent through the founding fathers and founding documents, through Reconstruction and the New Deal to the present day, really looking in each of these pivotal and foundational moments in our history. Was it really about democracy? And if not, who was excluded and why? And I don't think you'll be surprised to learn that there has been always very intentional exclusion, and the people that have been in power in this country, the wealthy white ruling class, built this thing from the beginning. And I have to say that it's a sign of my white privilege that I just did not realize the depths to which this is true. There are a couple episodes in there, including the one on the New Deal, which is, of course, about the time right after the Great Depression in the 1930s, and how people responded to that, where I was just blown away. There's a lot of archival recording from the 1990s with people at the end of their lives who lived through the Depression talking about what that was like, and then a lot of the innovative ways that they were fighting back during that time. For example, somebody was talking about evictions and saying that this collective of people organized kind of this evictions mutual aid organization. And when that happened, they would all get together. They would bring the evicted person's furniture back into the house, set up the house again, reconnect the gas, reconnect the water lines. And this kicked off a process where, through the way the legal system was set up, the family couldn't be evicted again for another 3 months. There was some kind of due process. And so I just was so struck by the fact that it's so easy to feel so alone in these times. There's a lot of talk about these being unprecedented times, which in many ways, of course, the particular dynamics of this time are unique, but class struggle, race struggle, is as American as apple pie. And in that lineage of suffering and pain, there is also a lineage of really good ideas and really great organizing. And during these times of exquisite challenge, there are great ideas that come from that pain point, historically and today. And I find that deeply reassuring and inspiring. So big shout out to Scene on Radio. This fourth season about democracy is called The Land That Never Has Been Yet, which is a line from a Langston Hughes poem. And the poem was never shared in the Scene on Radio podcast, so I wanted to take a moment to read it here. Langston Hughes is one of those evergreen visionaries who saw the truth about America and spoke it, and it's just as relevant today as ever. So to take us out, this is a Langston Hughes poem called Let America Be America Again. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive, nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro, bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man, driven from the land. I am the immigrant, clutching the hope I seek, and finding only the same old, stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient, endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of the working men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, hungry, humble, mean. Hungry yet today despite the dream. Beaten yet today. Oh, pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I am the one who dreamt our basic dream, in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings, in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed these early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me? Surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down while we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay? For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay. Except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, and yet must be. The land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies. We, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. The time for peace is right now, right now, right now, right now. Blessed are the clean, mind and heart. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. The time